Hey guys, my name is Beans. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about altars and how to make them. So the first thing you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about making an altar is, what is this altar for? What's the purpose? Altars can have many different purposes, okay? It doesn't just have to be for whatever god you worship, okay? It could be for deities that you work with or invoke, or just want to honor, you know? You could also have an altar for yourself, for your higher self, for your inner child, for your shadow self. You could have an altar for your family, for your ancestors. You could have a altar to bring in things that you want, and that altar would just have a whole bunch of things that would encompass your goals. What are your manifestations? What are you working towards? So there are many different altars that you could have, and you're not limited. So the first step in that process is choosing what is the purpose of this altar. The second step in creating an altar is creating a space for your altar. And you don't have to have some fancy altar table that's super expensive. You can use what you have. If you have some space on your desk, you can put it right there. If you have some space on your bookshelf, you can put it right there. If there's a little ledge that you can make some room for it there, you could do it right there. It doesn't have to be the most elaborate and exotic place ever, okay? As long as you've determined, okay, this is the space that I'm going to use for my altar, and you put that intention there. The third thing that most altars have is some sort of representation of what that altar is for. So if it's for your ancestors, pictures of your family, pictures of your ancestors on the altar. If it's for yourself, your higher self, your shadow self, pictures of you on the altar. If it's for a deity or a god that you're working with, a picture of that deity. You could also use things that remind you of those things. So things that remind you of yourself, things that remind you of your ancestors, heirlooms that have been passed down in your family, things that remind you of said deity. Let's say you're working with Poseidon, the god of the seas, right? And so you have like a little trident on your altar. That would work, or a little cup of water to help you remember that, or just some seashells, to help invoke the spirit of Poseidon. Just whatever reminds you of that and gives you that vibe of whatever the altar is dedicated for. Another good idea when you are trying to set up an altar is having a piece of the four elements. A lot of times, for the element of earth, people will use nature. They'll find rocks, they'll put it on their altars, flowers, plants, just trees, anything of that nature that reminds them of the earth element, is good. You could also use crystals to help bring in that earth element, which I'm a fan of putting crystals on my altar. I actually used to keep a piece of amethyst on one of my altars, and it did a really good job, and also a piece of selenite on one of my altars. So if you prefer to do that, you absolutely can. For the fire element, most people use candles, just because it's really good at bringing in that fire element. It's also good for bringing in the air element, so you can knock out two birds with one stone. And incense are really good for bringing in that air element also. So if you wanted to light an incense and just bring in that air element, that would be perfectly fine. For the water element, most people literally will put some water on their altar. Some people also use like seashells, things that they find at the beach. I currently have on my altar a little thing of sand and a little thing of ocean water. The sand is really good for bringing in not only the earth element and the water element, but it also contains a little bit of the air element in it also. And then just ocean water. So whatever you feel most called to, go with that. But usually people have a representation for each one of those elements on the altar. And remember, you don't have to have the most luxurious things. You don't have to have this fancy bowl for when you put the water on your altar. You don't have to have the fanciest, most expensive candles. You don't have to have the fanciest, most expensive incense. It could just be whatever you find. You could use the Dollar Tree tea light candles if that's what you have, and that is perfectly okay. You can use the things that you find outside to represent the earth element. You know, it doesn't have to be super exotic or elaborate, okay? Especially if you're working with your ancestors and deities, they understand completely. They're just going to appreciate mostly whatever you give, you know? And even if you can't really afford like this amazing shrine of them, if you can afford to like print out a picture or draw a picture and then put it on your altar, that would be okay too. So do what you can, you know? You don't have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars to have an altar, all right? And then what's important about the altars is just dedicate some time to like honor it, you know? Dedicate some time to like just be like, this is the altar. I value this altar. I value whatever this altar is dedicated to, you know? And if it's for a deity or a god that you're working with or worshiping, just give thanks, you know? Spend some time whenever you have the chance. It doesn't have to be every day or every week, but whenever you get the chance, and definitely when you feel called to, spend some time being like, thank you for all you've done. Thank you for all you've given me, especially if it's for yourself or your higher self, you know? Just be like, thank you for everything that you've already done and getting me this far, you know? Because that thanks goes a long way in creating new opportunities and new windows for you to succeed, you know? So don't forget to do that. Don't forget to bring in that gratefulness, honestly. So for funsies, I thought I would share one of my past altars with you guys. This altar setup is no longer a thing, but it is a really nice altar setup that I've had to invoke the earth elements. I have some pine cones that I picked, you know, that I found while I was out walking, and I was like, these are gorgeous, these are beautiful, and so I put those there. If I have like some crystal trees, I usually try and put those on my altar. I also have a singing bowl on this altar to help invoke the air element, but also just because it sounds really nice, and whenever I decided to put water there, I would put it in that singing bowl, you know, so it has a honorary place. And then I have a little bell that I was also gifted to help invoke the air element also. And then my 2 candles to help invoke the fire element, you know. And then this altar really was more just for my spiritual setup, and that's why you see my tarot decks on this altar. And on my current altar that I have, that I can't really show you, I have this to help bring in the earth element, and this was actually gifted to me from my grandmother, and it's been in our family for quite some time now. So that is my ancestral altar, but I thought I'd share it with you. It's pretty hefty, honestly, sturdy. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope this video helps you all.